In our December premiere auction, we have what I believe is probably the best lineup of high-end, high-quality sporting arms ever offered at auction. Now, we have sporting arms from manufacturers all over the world in this auction, but today I wanted to focus specifically on the British best quality sporting arms. So let's just get right into it. First thing we're going to start out with is a trio of PV Nelson over under shotguns. Now, PV Nelson is not as widely known as like James Purdy and Sons or Holland & Holland or even Boss, but PV Nelson makes some of the finest, best quality English shotguns out there. Now, PV Nelson had originally started with Purdy, worked with them for some time, and then moved on to working with Hartman & Weiss until he finally decided to go out on his own. And the quality of what he manufactured was only the top quality. Again, you know, this is, when you say best quality, this is what we're talking about. Now, PV Nelson made very, very few guns each year, as can be expected for something of this quality, especially out of a small shop such as his. And he is retired now, so you are not going to be able to order them again. What is available is what is out there, and these are probably the best ones that I've seen come through here. So again, we got a trio, and this one's a little unique in the fact that we've got the number 1 and number 2 gun that are similarly engraved. And then as you can see up front, the number 3 gun is completely different decoration on it with the gold inlays and the case colors behind it, whereas this is your brush bright finish. So really, really unique. It's built as a set, 1, 2, and 3, but you got that variance in them, which is very unique and very neat, I think. So first here, we'll take a look at the number 1 gun. Here, as I already mentioned, you've got the brush bright finish on the action. We've got the extended 4-end iron, which I think is just a very, very classy look on a best quality shotgun. Obviously, this requires a lot more work, a lot more inlaying of the 4-end. I just think it looks exceptional with that extended 4-end iron. But here, back to the engraving, you see we've got some deep cut relief scroll engraving surrounded by a game seam. Here on the right side, you can see we have a trio of wood ducks getting out of the swamp there. On the bottom, we have what looks like the trio of mallards coming out of the grass. And then on the left side, looks like we have maybe 4 black ducks over a pond. So again, just absolutely detailed engraving, that deep cut relief. And oh, by the way, this was cut by Ken Hunt, one of the most well-known English engravers out there. Very, very desirable for his items. And this is certainly one of his masterpieces here. Now on to the very unique 3rd gun in the trio. As we said already, this one obviously is very differently adorned with the gold relief throughout it. We also have different game birds on it. Here you can see we have a couple of pheasants on the right side. And here we have 3 red-legged partridge, or chucker, as we call them here in the States. But again, just completely unique from the other 2 guns in the engraving. Obviously, you got the bright case colored background as well. But these were made as a set of 3 guns. They were made as a trio. You know, whether they were made for that to be the showpiece or for a particular hunting activity, whereas these would be your more traditional 2 guns for driven pheasant hunts in the UK or throughout the world. The quality that PV Nelson makes, period. It's just a very unique set. Again, PV Nelsons are very hard to find, just single guns or pairs. You've got a trio here. Top level engraving from Ken Hunt. You've got the uniqueness of that 3rd gun. These are just a showpiece for the absolutely most astute collectors out there, or they can be used for hunting. That's what they're built for. Here we have another absolutely stunning pair of shotguns from the Robert M. Lee collection. This is a pair of James Purdy and Sons over-under shotguns. These were engraved by Philippe Griffney, who I'm sure you're familiar with if you follow our auctions. Does some of the absolute highest quality engraving on best quality guns. And this is probably the most labor-intensive engraving that I've seen on a Griffney engraved gun, or any gun for that matter. Here, we'll get into it right away. This is the number 1 gun. Here you can see on the action we have that deep cut relief engraving. The scrolls are very, very defined, but they're not just scrolls. We have quail's heads popping out of the center of the scrolls, Here as well, you can see we have gold inlaid accents on the flowers, predominantly at the center of the scrolls. If the entire gun looked like that, it would be a masterpiece. But obviously, as well, we have the game scene engraving here as well on the plates and underneath, all of which are different species of quail scenes. Here you can see we have some of the scaled quail on the left side. Here on the bottom, we have the mountain quail. And then on the right side, we have a covey of bobwhites getting out of a wagon, what appears to be an old wagon in a forest scene. Just incredible detail to it. Very, very visually pleasing to take a look at throughout the entire action. But not only there, here on the safety, you can see we have another quail cut into the safety. Just a very unique feature. Everything about this gun is just so incredibly unique. There you can see even the serial number is deep cut relief engraved into the bottom tang with a very unique font to it. Even on the top rib, we have the gun number of 1. That is cut into the rib. I don't know if I've ever seen that where they've cut into it. They put that much effort even into just putting the gun number on the rib. So just an absolute masterpiece by Philippe Griffny. Obviously on one of the best quality makers in the world, James Purdy and Sons. And here with gun number 2, obviously it's built to match with very similar type engraving. Here we've got other game bird species on it besides quail. We've got some woodcock and snipe and even doves here on the right side. And once again, we've got those the different bird's head throughout the scrolls. Again, I know I've already said this, but these are just an absolute masterpiece from Philippe Griffny. Just one of the most labor-intensive engraving jobs that I've seen from him or from anybody. This entire thing is covered in engraving. It's covered in gold inlays. It's that deep relief engraving, and just no detail has been spared in the engraving of these guns. And obviously, they're James Purdy and Sons. We know they're built to the highest standard, the best quality you can get from one of the most prominent historical makers in the world. Now, we just took a look at some of the most exceptional engraving that we've ever seen on British shotguns. And here we're going to go to some of your more classic examples of best quality British guns. First off, in the back here, we've got a John Rigby and Company. This is a double rifle and 470 Nitro Express. This is your quintessential big game double rifle. Again, 470 Express, the stopping power in that can take down any game on earth. But even though we're not talking about the engraving level that we did in the previous shotguns, these are still very, very well adorned with exceptional traditional rose and scroll engraving. But this is a more subtle look to them. These guns were meant to be used. Here, as I said, we've got a little bit more subtle engraving to it, but they're still very, very beautiful in their own right. And again, we got a big game double rifle here, so we've got big game engraved on the game scenes. Here on the right, we've got the Cape Buffalo. On the bottom, you've got the bull elephant. And then obviously on the left side here, what double rifle would be complete without a lion scene on it? So, and again, this is a 470 Nitro Express, one of the most favorable big game double rifles, particularly for Africa. And again, you've got, with this gun, it really is a combination of beauty and brawn. Here we've got a Holland & Holland Royal Deluxe. This is really your quintessential Holland & Holland side-by-side shotgun. The side locks. With the Deluxe, obviously, though, you do get a little bit more engraving with it. You've got the carved fences. You've got some birds within the scroll engraving on the left side. And on the bottom and the right side as well, you've got the Model Deluxe inscription here just in front of the trigger guard. But again, this is beautiful in its simplicity. You don't have the same level of engraving on the ones that we've seen prior, but this is a gun that's meant to be used. And it's still in exceptional condition. That's why I picked this one, because it is your quintessential side-by-side Holland & Holland double shotgun, and an exceptional one at that. So, and then finally, if you've seen the front one sitting here on the table, just by the configuration of it, you can probably tell that this is a Boss over-under shotgun. Here, kind of one of the most striking features of the Boss is that extended fore-end iron, which we saw on the PV Nelsons earlier. Really, Boss was kind of the first ones to really have that look, have that reinforcement on the fore-end. And here, it's just beautiful in its simplicity. This your typical English rose and scroll engraving, the Boss and Company banner on it, and just like the Holland and Holland, I picked this one out just because of its exceptional condition that's remaining with it. This is your classic Boss over under. If anybody could go out there and look for 3 of just the absolute quintessential British sporting arms, these would be the 3. You've got the Rigby double rifle, you've got the Holland and Holland side-by-side shotgun, and you have the Boss over and under. That just speaks British sporting arms. More importantly, British best quality sporting arms. This could be a collection in and of itself. If you said, I want a collection of British sporting arms, this right here is a collection in and of itself. So again, if you are looking for British best quality firearms, our December premiere auction is where you need to look. It has something for everybody, from the absolute top of the top quality, the best that you can possibly get when it comes to engraving and quality of work from Britain, or you're looking for that quintessential double rifle or side-by-side or over-under British shotgun. It's in this auction. Once again, it's our December premiere auction. Please take a look on our website, www.rockislandauction.com. Check out these guns as well as the many other guns we're going to have in that auction. And we hope to see you in Bedford, Texas.